Following a week's rest in Montgomery, George Wallace took his presidential campaign on the road again. His first stop was Chicago, Illinois. A crowd of about 100 Wallace supporters turned out to greet him at Midway Airport, but it appeared that the news media far outnumbered his supporters. Wallace then journeyed to Cicero, Illinois, where he spoke to several thousand people who jammed the streets there.
We're talking about schools. We're talking about hospitals. We're talking about the senior and apprenticeship list of labor unions. We're talking about the ownership of your properties. That's what we are talking about here in Cicero and in Illinois. I want to say this about the school system of Alabama and of Illinois. We don't have any recommendation to make in Illinois about what kind of schools you ought to have in Cicero. You people are intelligent enough in this city and in this state to determine yourself what is in the interest of your own child. And you don't need somebody 1,000 miles away telling you that. And we have today $500 million being spent with bureaucrats in Washington of your hard-earned tax money that check on every school system and every hospital and the senior and apprenticeship list of every labor union. And now, after the election, they're going to check even on the sale of your own property. I want to point this out to you also, that both National Party leaders in the last several weeks and months succumbed to a group of anarchists in the street who called for the passage of a bill that would jail you about the sale of your own property, the so-called open housing bill. I would be against the law. I would be against the law that said that you could not sell your property or lease it to someone of your choice, the same as I'm against the law that says that you must sell whether you want to or not. And one of the first...
People coming in.
I want to say to you this, that when I become the President of the United States, I'm going to... When I'm President, you just try me when I get out. George Wallace, let's go to the... That's one thing that neither one of the National Party candidates have said they were going to do. It's in my eyes, fella. You got it here. You're a smarty. You sure are. And I tell you what, you better have your day now.
the next President of the United States of America, the Honorable George C. Wallace.
I would remind you that in 1966, my wife was a candidate for governor of Alabama, and in the general election, what do they want over there? My friends, these are the people that folks in this country are sick and tired of all over, I can tell you that much. I wish you'd hire the stadium tomorrow night. We hired it tonight, but anyway, hold off just a minute. Let me get this away, and I'll leave, and everything will be all right. It's a sad day that as a result of decisions of our courts, you cannot enforce the law any longer. You cannot walk the streets safely. Your wife cannot ride to the supermarket. She cannot ride the transit system. Those who run for high political office in our country are unsafe. And as importantly, you are unsafe yourselves on the streets of the large cities of our country. And as a result of decisions of our Supreme Court, if you walk away from the stadium tonight and get knocked in the head, the person who knocks you in the head is out of jail before you get into hospital, and on Monday they'll try a policeman about it. He'll wind up getting in trouble about it.
All in all, it was a rough day for George Wallace, rough from the standpoint of hecklers in every city in which he stopped at today, as well as a grueling schedule. Though the hecklers were small in comparison to the number of Wallace supporters, they became more vocal with each stop.
Well, some hope that they can win, and it's dragging on and on. I don't believe that this is a wise thing to do. We're wasting our resources. We're wasting the lives of our people over there. Not wasting them, but we're drawing them out. We're getting more people killed and spending more of our dollars than we should to take care of this particular task. We seem to have a phobia on the Third World War. I don't want a Third World War. I don't think anybody else does. The question is how you prevent it. I don't think appeasement will do the job. I remember Munich, and I remember a lot of other examples in the world where it did not do the job. It just hastened the day when you had to pay the piper. On the other hand, where you stand up firm and do what's right, the chances are that you can ward off the war. While there's a possibility that by going ahead and do what's necessary to win the war in North Vietnam, we might get into a war with Red China or Russia, I think the odds are very, very low that this will happen, because Red China has got plenty of trouble of their own internally right now. And many times before, Russia has demonstrated that they don't want an all-out confrontation with us, at least not yet. And I refer you to such affairs as the Berlin crisis, Lebanon, Taiwan Straits, Cuban Missile Crisis, and so forth. Well, I think the odds are pretty low that we'll get into the war. I think there's a greater chance of getting into a war by vacillating and not doing anything than there is by stepping up and solving the problem. Well, I'm not qualified to talk about Mr. Wallace's philosophy because I don't know enough about it. All I know is what I read in the newspapers, and I'm as privileged to go out to Los Angeles. Why, there's probably not too much left, so I can't make an intelligence comment on his position. The only thing I can say is he's apparently against the President's administration and some of the things they're doing, and so we at least have that in common. I am too.
Therefore, under the support ruling in the case of Kinney versus House, which is in direct point here, I decline to place these nominations on the ballot. The above referred to case reads in part as follows. The probate judge need not proceed blindly in printing the ballots, and if it plainly appears to him, even as a ministerial officer, that the nominations were contrary to the mandatory provisions of the statute, we think he had the right to decline to print the names on the ballot and leave the matter to the courts. As to the National Democratic Party of Alabama, the name of William McKinley Branch has been certified in the 5th Congressional District for Congress. The certificate shows that a district mass meeting was held at Tuscaloosa on May the 7th, 1968 at 7 p.m. The other nominations submitted by the National Democratic Party of Alabama are doubtful of legality. This for the reason that I have affidavits in my possession to the effect that the convention or mass meeting of this party was not held as required by law.
This particular time, I can only reiterate what I said before, that I was quite shocked at Mrs. Amos's decision to reverse her previous commitment. It is not in accord with what she did, the understanding that she gave me when I filed certified our candidates last week. And that I have every confidence that in November, the people of Alabama will have the opportunity to vote for a full slate of candidates under the National Democratic Party of Alabama label. And that is all I can say officially now, as of now, except we shall overcome. I would say definitely before the 1st of October. There will be a definite statement before the 1st of October. And I think it will be much more than a statement, but that's about all I'm free to say right now. Mm-hmm.
It just underscores that the court's decree apparently is directed at social ends and social objectives rather than a quality educational program for our young people. And, of course, that's our objective, and we feel that's our responsibility to the people of Alabama.
Do you plan to tour some of the other schools that are being closed under this court order?
Yes. We want to see some of the other facilities. We didn't give these fine people any notice we were coming today because we wanted to see it just like it is, and we're going to do the same at other places. We expect to move again with some legal proceedings in the next few days as quickly as we can complete our conversations and our conferences with our attorneys. We've been meeting with them now for the past 2 weeks almost constantly on this question. We've been consulting with our local boards of education, the local superintendents, talking to as many teachers and principals as we can about the effect of the order. The morale now is not good in our educational system because of the chaotic conditions which have been created by it. So we're going to move just as promptly as we can, and hopefully within the next few days with legal proceedings on our part.
men, adult males and females, human beings, full responsibility of citizenship. It's been too easy to accept patriotism.
About getting our elected back on the ballot if they're off, and getting our congressional candidates back on the ballot if they are indeed off. How soon will you have?
It definitely is an exponent, a sincere exponent of change in the state of Alabama, and Lord knows we need change in this state of Alabama. If you will get as many people as possible among your friends and on your acquaintances to vote that straight Democratic ticket under that American eagle, you will be casting your vote for freedom and change in the state of Alabama, and not only in the state of Alabama, but this message will get across all over the South and all over the country that we, here in the heart of Wallace land, that we dare to stand and say and cast a vote for decency, for change, against racism, against divisive politics, against setting brother against brother, white against black, rich against the poor. If you will do this in November, next we may change the United States too, and the world. It can come from Alabama. George Wallace is not the only thing we can export.
Now, if the teacher tenure law is abolished, needless to say that teachers will become victims of every political hack, disgruntled parent, and delinquent child in the school system. There are absolutely no existing ills in education that can be healed by abolishing the teacher tenure law. And there are no existing ills that cannot be cured under the law as is presently written. While abolishing the teacher tenure law is dangerous to all educators, you and I know that the odds are against the Negro. We know that. It's a fact. It's unfortunate, but it's a fact. And if we sit idly by and remain quiet while the tenure law is abolished, the problems we are encountering today will only be a dress rehearsal for tomorrow. That's what it boils down to. It has been charged that there are too many incompetent teachers in the profession. While I have not counted them, I will agree that there are many teachers in the profession, both Negro and white, who could best serve the children of Alabama by resigning. That we know. But considering the fact that teachers are on probation for 3 years, they are not employed until their 4th year. Then if we have bad teachers in the system, it is not the tenure law that's caused the bad system, it's the recruiting process. It's the recruiting process, it's not the law. Because if we have poor teachers, now, then somebody's done a bad job of recruiting, a bad job of observing what's going on.
Well, the present plan we're in has certain disadvantages. There's some degree of confusion as to which hospital is it for the day if someone suddenly becomes ill. And certainly the three hospitals that had been being used, Baptist, Jackson, and St. Margaret's, were hospitals where the bed situation was already rather acute. So this recent plan to use a hospital where the bed situation was not so critical, where there were some beds to be used, I think is probably a good one for this reason. Because St. Jude had beds available for some years, they haven't operated an active emergency room because their medical staff was rather small. And this almost precludes running an emergency room. Jackson had the staff and was willing to staff St. Jude's emergency room, and this way the hospital will be more fully used.
How great of a role is money playing in the overall program?
Well, money played the role in the first place of creating the situation, I think, George. No hospital wanted to absorb the total loss of this, and this is where the Chamber worked as a vehicle to at least temporarily work out this, whether this loss of $5,000 or $10,000 or $15,000 a month was spread among the hospitals. Now, money will also be a factor in solving this. Monies that are either going to come locally here or in federal programs. With it, we'll be able to perhaps enlarge hospitals, to acquire more doctors, and to pay the hospitals adequately for the patients that they have to hospitalize. And this will go a long way towards solving this problem.
After careful study and with the aid and assistance of the Attorney General's office and other attorneys, we are now in position to go forward with implementation of the order. The order requires the following procedure. Take the necessary and appropriate steps to desegregate immediately the several honor farms, the educational programs, the youth centers, and the hospitals in the state penal system. That said officials take the necessary and appropriate steps to effect complete desegregation of the minimum and medium security institutions as operated by the state penal system. Within 6 months from the date of this decree, that said officials take the necessary and appropriate steps to effect complete desegregation of all other state penal facilities, including the maximum security institutions, within a period of 1 year from the date of this decree. And I might add that I'm required under the order to report to the court every 90 days the progress that has been made towards implementation of this order.
Commissioner, what has been the most difficult phase of the overall program in implementing it?
Is a good, a thorough understanding of the order itself.
I mean,
well, and getting it over well with the president itself.
Yes, sir.
None whatever that we've heard. We put up notice in the trustee barracks. That's right out here, Friday, requesting that anyone desiring a cell, not a cell the same, but a bed change, because there's no cells there, to notify the warden, and his request would be considered. The fact that he requested it does not mean that he would get it, because we still retain the right on a disciplinary angle not to do it or to do it. But the court gave us this right.
I certainly do not have any plans, but I thoroughly intend to support the nominees of the Democratic Convention, and I will work anywhere that I feel that I can help. And if I am asked by the National Party or any of the national officers to work outside the state of Alabama, I would be happy to do that. I'll work anywhere that I think that I can help, or anyone thinks I can help, but I do intend to support the nominees of the Democratic Convention.
Do you think President Johnson, or whoever is the nominee of the Democratic National Convention, has any chance of getting a sizable vote in Alabama?
Yes, sir, I do.
I don't know that he can get a majority, but I think he can get a very sizable vote. If in this state, if the nominees of the Rooster, the Democratic Party, let's call it the Rooster Party, if those electors are placed on the ballot, and they obviously will be for Governor Wallace, and then one slate of electors, which I think is possible with the two splinter groups, to be on that same ballot, along with the Republicans. And you must remember that the Republicans in the last two elections have garnered anywhere from 165 to 200,000 votes. With those three, if the state of Alabama is allowed to vote, to have a choice between those three, a Republican, Governor Wallace, or the national nominee, I believe that Governor Wallace possibly would be in trouble. Although he could win, I think his win would be so small that he would be appreciative rather than be a mandate.
Mr. Flowers, looking forward to the governor's race in 1970, you have already indicated that you will run for governor. What effect do you think George Wallace will have on that governor's race?
I think he will have very much of an effect because I think he will be a candidate. I don't think there's any doubt in the world that George Wallace will be a candidate for governor next time. And at the proper time, according to the laws, you cannot campaign for a job until you can declare, and what we say is that at the proper time, I certainly intend to declare, and I intend to be a candidate, and I fully expect to run again this time against Governor Wallace himself.
Daddy, any night someone can get where you've got concentrations of people can get a milk bottle, put gas in it, and put a taper in it, and throw it in a building. It catches on fire. People gather around, then another building catches on fire. It can happen if there is somebody that wants to start it. But I feel today in Birmingham, and I don't think I have to cross my fingers, I believe that we have a peaceful situation there, and I don't want to brag about it. Tonight it could happen. But we are attacking the problems. I'll tell you about our Youth Opportunity Program in just a minute now, Vest Pocket Program. You may have had something in your paper about that here. Did they put it in the paper? I was hopeful that they might do that. Well, anyway, about it. I think that the people that do rent do have a responsibility to try to keep these places, and some people might not agree with this, the Youth Opportunity Program. It's trying to get people that live in Birmingham. We have city rights and states' rights, but we also have state responsibilities and city responsibilities, if I may say so. And so we are trying to get the employers, again, not to give something away, but to take these young people and put them to work usefully. What does that do? Certainly a young person, 19 to 20, 21 years of age, that goes to work and can earn some money, not a great deal. They can begin to save and to invest. And a little bit, my children started at 8 to live a cleaner place. That could be misunderstood. I don't think it would be in this group I'm talking to. And so these people come back home, a young person, 18, who is making, let's say, $45 a week, working real hard, 8 or 10 hours a day. And they come back to this dwelling that is pretty awful. What we're trying to do is, with this bond issue that we have, getting these jobs for the young people, not a giveaway program, being provided for by people of Birmingham, we want them to come back to a place a little cleaner, a little better place in which to live. It's going to take time. It won't be done in 1 year, but I believe we've got the momentum to get it going. About the individual, I hit particularly hard on that. I said that in this nation which was conceived for the individual, we shall continue more than ever before the encouragement of the individual to do for himself whenever and wherever there is an opportunity, rather than relying on others to care for him. How true that is. In our all-out effort to relieve poverty, squalor, help the low income, and to provide jobs, this is proper. But with all that, the mayor and the city council of any city must champion the cause of the individual and his individual responsibility. I believe that when you get people to work and you get them to clean up the squalor and the filth, that they begin to have more pride and they begin to care, and that means a great deal. Thank heavens all of us in this room, most all of us have had an opportunity, at least some of you started with nothing and you've come a long way, and I commend you for it. But there are many others that haven't had quite the opportunity, and I believe that if the opportunity does come, and if it comes in an atmosphere of a little more cleanliness and in a feeling with the city government that is trying not to provide so much, but to help people provide for themselves, that we will have a better society. I particularly want to congratulate all of you. I can't tell you how impressed I was about this 4th of July. We have a big celebration in Birmingham on the 4th. These were what I close with. Before I close, in America...
And I'll say it again today, that I'm going to continue to work for an educational program. Now this pending motion, and most of you have probably read it, I haven't become convinced in my own mind yet that gun control laws do anything except keep guns away from law-abiding good people. It's been my feeling and observation that the criminal can always get the weapon if he needs it. It may be that, and I think it probably would be, that registration laws would be helpful toward identification and tracing. This would be in the area of enforcement and investigative work, but I'm concerned about the constitutional right of a citizen to bear arms, and I think most of our people feel that the right to have a weapon in the home to protect the man's castle, which is his home, is a very dear right to our citizens, and I'd be extremely reluctant to tamper with this in any way. I don't think our citizens would object to a registration act where proper officials would know or would be able to identify the ownership of a particular weapon or something of this nature. But I don't believe that a gun control law will keep firearms away from the people that apparently are the target of such legislation. We believe that our school boards have in good faith implemented the court order of last year. At the appropriate time, we're going to appear, when I say we, I mean the State Board of Education, of which I'm a member, are going to appear in court and go forward to defend our position, to show the court that we have in good faith, and when I say we, I mean the State Board and the local boards of education in Alabama, in good faith implemented that order through the exercise of freedom of choice plans. We're going to ask the court to uphold the right of freedom of choice on behalf of the students of Alabama, because it's a democratic way, and it's a way that the court has said is the proper way to solve the problems that the court found existed in our public school system. And it's also the way that the court said was intended by the court in its press release of last year, was intended by the court when it issued the statewide order. Make a brief statement to you at the outset today. Most of you are aware that late last week, sometime last week, a motion was filed in the Lee against Macon County. In connection with the suit which was filed yesterday against the State Personnel Board and certain state agencies which receive federal funds, I've been in touch with the Personnel Board, and it is my understanding that the merit system of the state of Alabama has operated on the basis that the law requires. We have previously asked representatives of federal agencies to furnish us with names of individuals who claim discrimination, and they've wholly failed to furnish any such names. As a matter of fact, representatives of the representatives of the Division of State Merit System in the Department of Health, Education, and Welfare could not furnish a single instance of any alleged discrimination in the operation of our system when called upon to do so just recently. We're going to continue to meet any effort, regardless of the source, to tear apart our merit system, especially if such efforts are made to give to anyone preferred treatment rather than equal treatment. Our merit system rule regarding the selection of employees is the same as the federal civil service system rule, and I can only feel that this lawsuit is an attempt to force the state to hire our employees on some basis other than merit. Our merit system was set up to prevent political pressures from interfering with the hiring and promotion of state employees. We intend to defend it against this unwarranted attack.
Well, of course, this covers a very broad spectrum. I think we'd have to be more confining in them. Basically, I have found, and as Speaker of the House, I was Governor Wallace's chief legislative lieutenant upstairs where the legislature meets. I found that and considered our program to be a very progressive one that benefited our state greatly. I could give you a lot of statistics that we're very proud of in our state that emanated from his administration and were carried forward in the administration of Governor Lurleen. I generally support his policies wholeheartedly.
He's generally been classed as a segregationist. Would you class yourself as that?
I would class myself, I think, as a segregationist like all Southerners who've been in politics through the years. I first entered in 1954 and have come up through the ranks. I'm not a racist, and I do not consider him to be a racist.
Governor, you said that your delegation that was elected was an integrated delegation. To what extent?
I don't know. We're getting so broad-minded in Alabama, we don't count numbers anymore.
They're not in the majority, are they?
Oh, no.